Away from Africa to the U.S., where the Department of State has revised its visa policy for Nigerian nationals, introducing more restrictive terms for most non-immigrant, non-diplomatic visas. Effective immediately, most Nigerian citizens seeking to enter the United States will be issued single-entry visas, valid for just 3 months. The change comes as part of a broader effort by the U.S. government to align global visa standards with its immigration and security protocols. Most non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visas will now be limited to single entry. It will also be valid for 3 months, and visas granted before 8th July will remain valid for their original duration and conditions. The U.S. mission in Nigeria confirmed. The new policy is expected to impact future travelers significantly, particularly those who rely on multiple entry permits for business, study, or tourism. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has Nigerian government rather, is asking the U.S. to reconsider that policy based on long-standing and historic relationship with the U.S. Let's now explore this further. Let's bring in an immigration lawyer, Andrew Thomas. He joins me from the U.S. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, what sort of burden will this place on Nigerian travelers to the U.S.? It's not the first time we're getting this kind of policy from the U.S. or a revision of immigration policy from the U.S., but this particular one is different because now, for some people, they get 2 years. Others have gone, even far to get as much as 5 years, multiple entry into the U.S. But what sort of burden will this place on students?
When you say immigration, I think visa issuance and regulations is part of broader immigration policy for any country. And I would like to say that any country has a right to work out processes to issue visas. And when you say boardings on students, I think the implications are way more wider than Nigeria. In case you don't know, the visa policy, single entry and 3 months, doesn't just apply to Nigeria. It applies to at least 31 African countries. And when you look at the visa reciprocity schedule of the United States, the Department of State, it claims that it's because of high overstays in these countries that have been reduced to single entry for 3 months for most non-immigrant visas. But the data contradicts that. It appears to be a very, very calculated way of limiting lawful non-immigrant visit to the United States from certain parts of the world, because how do you explain the overstay rates of even countries that are involved in the United States visa waiver program way more higher than countries that have been issued a 3 months single entry visa reciprocity schedule? I've been seeing stories flying all over the internet saying that it's specifically because Nigeria issues single entry 3 month visas. That is not true. If you're trying to apply to a visa to Nigeria from wherever you're coming from, you have an option of a single entry or multiple entry, and it is certainly not 3 months. So the burden will be huge financially, logistically, because it really doesn't make sense that I want to visit a country and I'll only be able to go in on a single entry, given the cost involved in visiting that country. In this case, for example, Nigeria to the United States. Very, very financially tasking for you to do that just to go on a visit. And in any case, other countries that are not on this reciprocity schedule still have the privileges of multiple entry and visas ranging from 60 months to 120 months. It looks like a targeted attack on certain parts of the world.
And I want to stay on that point you made, about it being targeted, because according to, you have already said that the U.S. has said it's based on the principle of reciprocity. But countries like Ethiopia and Cameroon that have not also been targeted in this particular, this recent immigration revision of policy, they offer more than, I mean, Nigeria doesn't even offer, like you mentioned, we don't even offer just a single entry. You also have the option of a multiple entry. But even Ethiopia and Cameroon offer more as well. And so is it really about the doctrine of reciprocity? What do you think is at the heart of this?
Well, it's part of the broader immigration agenda of this administration. If you discover there have been many methods to remove people from the United States, and also there have been many methods put in place to deter people from coming into the United States. When you look at even the new big, beautiful bill, there's a lot of appropriation there to generate funds through those who overstay visas, generate funds through those who don't self-deport, which is not legal as it were, but the administration claims it's legal. There is also provisions there to make sure that there is a lot of higher fees to apply for immigration benefits. It's part of a broader agenda to limit lawful immigration. And that is where the problem is. If you don't make something illicit, it becomes illicit, and people are willing to take other routes other than legal means to also have access to the United States. It's a country that welcomes everybody without discrimination. And that's why it is a melting pot. And it's an example like no other compared to any other country in the world. So it's really sad that some parts of the world have been limited to have access to come to the United States for business, for pleasure. And it's kind of discriminatory that if I come to the United States for a single visit, my plans can change. Anybody can fall sick. That might be a basis not to leave when you're supposed to leave. You might decide to get married. You find somebody you love. That might be a basis not to leave. You might decide to pursue academic careers. That might be a basis not to leave. But for you to limit people to 90 days and a single entry, and others have the privilege of staying for 5 years or 10 years and coming multiple times, it's not even and it's not just.
So the Nigerian government is asking the U.S. to reconsider this particular policy. Some have said, look, based on the principle of reciprocity, Nigeria should retaliate. And I'm asking you if that is the right thing to do in this context, or should we continue to engage diplomatically with the U.S.?
Well, I don't think retaliating offers any solution, because in the context, who visits more? Nigerians visit the United States more. That's a reality. So if you decide to retaliate, what do you hope to achieve with that? I think they should keep engaging, and hopefully something meaningful will come out of it. Because if you look at that list, many of the countries on there were on the list of countries that have been speculated will be in for a second ban, for a ban in this second coming of this administration. So surprisingly, Nigeria is the only country that wasn't on that originally speculated list, that is on this list of 3 countries, of countries that have only access to the United States for a single entry and a 3-month visa. So I believe the Nigerian government should keep engaging, and hopefully something meaningful will come out of it.
Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to have you on. Immigration lawyer Andrew Thomas.
Thank you for having me.